Welcome back to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today, we're continuing our Deep Dive series into the complex world surrounding Jeffrey Epstein. This is part 7. We've meticulously gathered a wide array of sources, official government reports, detailed prison records, investigative journalism, public commentary too, all to really unpack one of the most intensely scrutinized aspects of this whole saga, his time in federal custody and the highly contentious circumstances around his death. Our mission today is to lay out the known facts. We're focusing on credible investigative reports, official explanations, and making sure we clearly separate, documented institutional failures from all the speculation that emerged later.
Yeah, and it's really insightful, isn't it, how even the most rigorous official investigations, they meticulously document these profound institutional failures. But in doing so, they almost inadvertently create the very gaps that fuel all this widespread public questioning.
That's a great point.
The details of those failures, they often become the foundation for, well, alternative narratives. It really highlights a kind of crisis of trust, I think. We'll explore exactly what was reported about, say, the broken cameras, the actions or maybe inactions of the jail staff, the official conclusions, and then, touch on the different narratives that have sprung up around them.
Okay, let's start at the beginning of this particular chapter then. His 2019 arrest. Epstein was apprehended by the FBI NYPD Crimes Against Children Task Force, that was July 6, 2019, at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey. And right away, things started happening that, they really set the stage for the later controversies, didn't they?
That's right. Immediately after the arrest, he was jailed at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, MCC, we'll call it, in New York City. And what's crucial here is that on the very night of his arrest, so July 6th going into the 7th, law enforcement executed search warrants at his Manhattan townhouse.
Right.
And the evidence they found there, it turned out to be pretty pivotal.
And what they found, it really is critical to understanding the depth of this case. That search of the Manhattan mansion, it turned up specific evidence consistent with victim recollections. It painted a disturbing picture. And beyond that, investigators found, and this is a direct quote, hundreds and perhaps thousands of sexually suggestive photographs of fully or partially nude females.
Wow.
Yeah. And disturbingly, some of these photos appeared to be of underage girls. At least one was explicitly confirmed by counsel as being underage when the photo was taken.
And if you're wondering just how deep this went, think about what was found in a locked safe during that same search. Law enforcement found compact discs, CDs with handwritten labels, things like, and again, these are chilling, young name plus name, Miskin Nudes 1, and Girl Pics Nude.
Just wow. So those findings immediately raised huge questions about the full scope of what he was doing. So, okay, he's now in federal custody at the MCC. Let's fast forward a bit to his time there leading up to his death. We know that from July 25th to the 29th, 2019, Epstein was placed on psychological observation. He was seen daily by the chief psychologist, or a staff psychologist. This was after an incident on July 23rd, the one that initially got him placed on suicide watch.
Right, and what's particularly telling about those daily psych visits is Epstein's response. He apparently adamantly denied any suicidality. Adamantly. And notably claimed he had zero memory of what happened on July 23rd, the event that led to the suicide watch in the first place.
No memory at all.
That's what he claimed. He was given, supportive interventions, coping skills, stuff like that, and he was reportedly receptive to it. But this contradiction, denying suicidal thoughts while being watched for them, it's just one of the many, many complex layers here.
And it wasn't just the psychological stuff. He also voiced very specific concerns about being housed in the Special Housing Unit, the SHU. He reportedly told staff he felt it was dangerous there. He couldn't sleep because of noise from other inmates, found it hard to work on his legal case.
He was quite persistent about it, wasn't he?
Yeah, it seemed like these weren't just minor complaints.
And what's fascinating about those concerns, especially, thinking about the official narrative later, despite him denying being suicidal during those daily visits, even claiming no memory of that July 23rd incident, the chief psychologist, she kept him on observation because he was being, let's say, evasive about the possible suicide attempt. But she oversaw a decision that kept him in the SHU.
Kept him there, even with his complaints in the previous incident.
Yes. And in fact, the Bureau of Prisons, the BOP's National Suicide Prevention Coordinator, actually recommended, controversially, housing Epstein with another sex offender in the SHU. So this decision, putting him in a unit he explicitly said he felt uncomfortable and unsafe in, given what had just happened. It really raises serious questions about whether suicide prevention protocols were actually followed.
And his agitation didn't stop. On July 28th, he told the staff psychologist he'd been agitated for hours the night before. Said it was due to nonstop toilet flushing and noise, he pointed out, similar to when he was in the SHU before. He was eventually told he'd be moved to a different cell.
So with all these, frankly, concerning details coming out from his time in MCC, the big question for so many people is still, what did the official investigations actually conclude about how he died? Like, how did the Office of the Inspector General, the OIG, square all these institutional failures with their final determination?
It is striking, isn't it? Despite documenting all these failures, the OIG determined, and I'm quoting again, they did not uncover evidence that contradicted the FBI's determination regarding the absence of criminality in connection with how Epstein died.
So, no foul play, according to their findings.
Essentially, yes. No evidence suggesting foul play. Furthermore, every single MCC staff member they interviewed, plus all 15 inmates, including 10 from the SHU itself, reported no credible information suggesting his cause of death was anything other than suicide.
Okay. But what about the security measures, the cameras?
Right. So the OIG investigation, it uncovered long-standing deficiencies with the MCC New York security camera system. Long-standing. And what's truly critical here is this. A disk failure in one of the DVR systems, Data V2, happened on July 29, 2019. This failure caused about half of the institution's cameras, including almost all of them in and around the SHU.
Almost all of them.
Almost all in and around the SHU, yes, to only display a live video feed. They weren't recording.
They weren't recording. For how long?
MCC personnel didn't even discover this critical failure until August 8th. That's 11 days later.
11 days, wow.
And the work to rebuild the system, it wasn't finished until after Epstein had died.
That is just a monumental breakdown in basic security. Unbelievable.
Which obviously meant the OIG's analysis of any recorded video was severely limited. They basically only had footage from the common area of the SHU because of these issues. However, the footage they did have, it confirms no one entered the tier where his cell was. Not from the time he was locked in around 8 p.m. on August 9th until sometime between about 10:40 that night and 6:30 the next morning.
Okay, so the common area footage shows no one going in.
Right. But crucially, there was a gap, a notable gap of about 1 minute of footage missing. Specifically from 11:58 p.m. to 12:000 a.m., right around midnight.
A missing minute, okay?
Yeah.
And beyond just the cameras, the investigation also found really glaring failures in what the staff themselves were doing, right? These weren't small mistakes.
Not at all.
The OIG determined that MCC New York staff committed, quote, significant violations of BOP and MCC New York policies and falsified records related to their conducting inmate counts and rounds.
Falsified record.
Yes. For instance, one senior officer specialist couldn't recall if he'd correctly noted the 10 p.m. count slips on August 9th or during the midnight count when another inmate was transferred out. And this is a big deal because the practice of ghost counting, marking an inmate present without actually seeing them, was reportedly not allowed.
So they were supposed to physically check.
Supposed to.
Yeah.
And adding to this, the morning watch operations lieutenant did around about 4 a.m. on August 10th. But she only stayed in the common area for maybe 7 minutes, talked with the officers there. She stated she wasn't required to visit each tier or look into each individual cell. These aren't just, procedural hiccups. They represent fundamental failures in ensuring inmate safety and security. Basic stuff.
And it's exactly these things piling up, the camera's not recording, that missing minute of video, the admitted violations in inmate counts, the falsified logs, that became such fertile ground for, widespread public speculation and, frankly, conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Despite the official reports saying suicide, many people immediately started questioning it. You heard those comments everywhere, like, how can you possibly hang yourself from a 3-foot bunk? It's a simple question, but it really captured that public skepticism.
Exactly, and that skepticism just grew and grew. It led to all this commentary you saw about, tons of tapes or a secret client list of powerful people involved in illegal acts and questions about whether Epstein might have been working for intelligence services, domestic or foreign.
Yeah.
These public narratives, which were reported in various places, they undeniably reflect a really deep distrust, a search for a more complex, maybe more sinister explanation that goes way beyond just, documented incompetence or institutional failure. The perceived flaws in the official story just left this vacuum, and it got filled very quickly by these alternative theories.
And like you said, that seemingly tiny missing minute of video,
Yeah.
even though it was just 60 seconds,
Yeah.
It particularly fueled those theories. It really became a focal point for people questioning the official account. For many, it symbolized all the perceived gaps and inconsistencies in the official narrative. So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening? We've seen that the official investigations into Jeffrey Epstein's death, they meticulously documented a really startling array of institutional failures. Serious policy violations within federal custody, broken cameras, falsified inmate counts, the whole list. Yet these undeniable findings exist side by side with this pervasive public skepticism and a whole landscape of, well, unproven theories.
Yeah, this deep dive really throws that tension into sharp relief, doesn't it? The tension between the documented facts and the persistent speculation. It highlights the profound questions that just bubble up when systems designed for security fail so spectacularly. They leave these gaps, and those gaps get filled by public imagination, by distrust, especially when you're dealing with powerful figures where the stakes just seem impossibly high.
So maybe the most provocative thought for you to mull over after hearing all this is, in this age of just overwhelming information, where official explanations and documented failures are laid out pretty clearly, how does public trust, or maybe the lack of it, shape the narratives we actually choose to believe? And maybe even more pointedly, how much does the nature of the facts themselves, especially when they seem incomplete or maybe contradictory, how much does that contribute to or maybe detract from the widespread belief in alternative theories? Something to think about.